All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So if everyone can find their seats.
We have some open seats up here in the front for those of you who are still looking for a chair. We have one open one here. Looks like we have three at this table.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Hannah Schaefer. I'm an urban planner with Kimley Horn, and I have a few of our team members today. Nicole Galasso is here, and Madison Parker is in the back. And then we also have city staff here as well. If y'all want to raise your hand, I'm sure you guys are familiar with them. So if you have any questions, after the meeting, feel free to come up to us, and we'd be happy to talk to you after. But tonight, what we're going to do is kind of give you an update on where we are in the master plan process and also talk about what we've heard through this process so far as we've been out in the community and doing a couple forms of engagement. And then the bulk of what we're going to do tonight is a discussion very similar to what we did for our first workshop if you were here. So we're going to have some table discussion and then reporting back out on some of the key themes and goals that are going to be in the master plan. So we want to get your feedback on them. If there's anything we need to change moving forward, that's really what we want to hear from you tonight. Did we hear you correctly through the first phase of our engagement? Is there anything we need to change moving forward, or anything that we missed, or anything that you really want to prioritize in this plan? So that's really what we're looking from you tonight. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So just a reminder for those of you, I know it's been a while since we've been here to talk to you from our first community engagement event this summer. So just a reminder of what this master plan is doing. It really is a guiding document for the city 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And so what we really want to capture from you is, what is your vision for the city? What are your current challenges, and how can this city improve, or how can the city really enhance what you all really like about the community right now? So this plan will identify specific strategies, recommendations, and projects that the city can implement to achieve that vision you all have identified. And the master plan will consist of these 6 main focus areas, as we're calling them. And we feel the recommendations and strategies and projects will all fall within these categories. And obviously, some of them will overlap, but this is primarily what we'll be talking about tonight. And just a summary of what engagement we've had so far. So like I said, we had our first in-person community workshop last summer. And then we also had an online survey that occurred through the summer and into the fall, which really captured, what are your initial ideas for the city? What challenges are you facing? So from there, we were able to form initial recommendations and goals for the master plan. We also conducted multiple pop-up events where we went into the community with various events and groups just to gain their feedback as well. We'll continue doing that through our next phase of engagement. So you'll see us out at some events this spring and summer as well. And here are some of the themes that we've heard from our community engagements. You'll see our one-word wall that we have over there, for example. We have it here tonight, so if you want to share your thoughts, feel free. But when we've been out in the community, we've been asking people, what is your vision for Madeira Beach? So these are some of the feedback we've received, and you can read some of the responses that we received from the Mary Market when we were there in December. But a lot of similar responses we've heard is, preserving the beaches and the natural amenities that the city has, enhancing existing park spaces, challenges with transportation, challenges with stormwater and resiliency. So these are some of the key themes we've heard through our engagement, and you'll see these reflected in our recommendations and goals that you'll hear later tonight. And this next phase, we're going to get into, the primary discussion of what we're here, and I'm going to turn it over to Nicole, who will be our facilitator for this next part of our evening.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see some familiar faces and also some new ones. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to be here with us tonight. So I know most of you have quite a few items in front of you. The activity that I'll be walking us through is going to focus on this handout, the stapled piece of paper. And really what we want to hear from you is, do you have any feedback on the goal statements that relate to each of these topic areas? Because that's really the foundation of the master plan and how we'll develop recommendations from there. And then also we've summarized some of the major recommendations we've heard from our previous engagement events within each topic area. And so we want to hear from you all what your priorities are. And if you have a priority within one of these areas that you don't see listed out, this is your opportunity to have your voice heard and share with us what your priorities are within each of these areas. So we have a packed house, as you can see, and we have 6 topic areas to get through. So I'm going to be pulling out my experience as a middle school math teacher to keep this moving along. So I'm going to just quickly go through the goal statement, summarize the recommendations, and then this is really your time. So I'm going to give you all time to talk amongst yourselves at the table, and then we'll do a little bit of a share out. And if you don't get to have your comment heard in the whole group share out, please still make sure that you write it down on the paper, because we look at every single one of these and summarize it all. And this is what the foundation of the master plan is. It's not about Hannah's priorities or my priorities. This is your community. It's about your priorities. So please make sure that you write down your feedback, even if you don't get to share it out loud. So with that, let's get started on transportation and mobility. So the goal statement we have is to create a safe and convenient transportation network that prioritizes all users, including pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, and public transit riders. And we'll go on to the recommendations. So again, we're on this paper, the very top here. Some of the things we've heard from yourselves and maybe your fellow community members is a focus on safety along Gulf Boulevard, especially for pedestrians, slowing down traffic wherever possible, especially along Tom Stewart Causeway. We've definitely heard quite a bit about parking, having a citywide parking strategy, potentially looking at different ways to kind of manage parking supply and demand, especially during peak season. And a huge emphasis on more pedestrian-friendly areas and connectivity from the neighborhoods to the beaches, and also the many parks and recreational amenities that you all have here today. And you'll see there's a few other ones up there as well. We'll pause here on the screen, and I'd love for you all to talk amongst yourselves at your table. This is your chance to connect with fellow community members. We'll be walking around the room, and in just a few minutes, we'll hear your feedback with the whole group. So with that, please discuss amongst yourselves. Are these your priorities related to transportation? And if not, what are your priorities? And get ready to share out in just a few minutes. Okay, it's your time now. So part is the goal and what we
All right, we'll give it another 30 seconds and then we'll report back out. I'm hearing a lot of good conversations. All right, we're gonna come back as a group. Robin, Jenny, do we have that red box somewhere with the microphone? Oh, there
I've got the red box.
There it is. All right, so if there's any table that wants to start, was there a common theme that you all talked about? We can give you the red box and you'll have the floor for a short period of time.
Okay, who's gonna be our brave starter who wants to share out some of the things that you heard at your table? Right here? Okay, excellent. Talk into the red box.
Hi, Redbox. We had a lot of the similar key recommendations, but one item that came up was how do we have a better traffic pattern for pedestrians and bike riders up and over the Tom Causeway Bridge? One idea was, to have some sort of, on each end of the bridge, a way to get to the other side that went up and over, and then had like pedestrians on one side, bikes on the other, because it's very, very crowded and dangerous, and not everybody gets off their bike to let the pedestrians go, and, so on and so forth. Any other thoughts on that one, guys? Extend the city limits for parking passes, so, there's people that are right over the bridge, and, they're not considered necessarily Madera Beach, but they live within a mile and a half, and they have to pay for parking. The other one was, is there an opportunity to have a turn, left option off Madera Way onto, I guess that's Tom Causeway, right? Because you have to go past to the other side, take a left, go to Tom Causeway, turn left, and then go back up. So those were a couple of the items. Was there anything else, guys? Anybody want the box?
I just said more public transportation in general.
Yeah, and just more public transportation in general, like more options. I think the Jolly Trolley and you guys had Explore Micro Transit options such as Freebie. But we don't really have, that much of that at this
Right.
time.
Thank you. That was all great. All right, who's next? All right. You've been nominated. Yes.
Okay, so our table, we talked about two main things when it came to transportation. First was potentially a parking garage inside of John's Pass. I know it's been tossed around at different meetings, but that was something we were talking about because we need additional parking down there, and it would also be great for resident use, not just for parking on a regular day, but for storm use, having somewhere high and dry to put our vehicles. The second thing we talked about was maybe having a rideshare specified drop zone pickup in the more congested areas like John's Pass or an area off of 150th or even in the marina, because what we experience, maybe not right now because the tourism's down, but when tourism is a little more prolific, we have the rideshare stopping right on Gulf Boulevard, people exiting and trying to get into cars, stopping right inside of neighborhoods. It's just a bit of a troubled thing, and we would like to see maybe some dedicated rideshare pickup drop-off spots.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, who's next?
Two things. One that came up was a little bit of a clarification on the statement. What we are prioritizing is safety, not any one of these particular groups that are listed here, but we're actually prioritizing safety. Another topic that, and we talked about the fact that a lot of people visit Madera Beach that are not residents, and some are not familiar with the rules of the crosswalks and stopping for pedestrians. So we need some kind of education and possibly maybe some signage or something even. The other topic that came up and we didn't get a chance to really explore is lighting along Gulf Boulevard. concerned there that we have, one idea is put up lots of big lights to make it well lit. Unfortunately, that conflicts with the turtles and the sea life and all. So maybe we need to look at some type of a low level or ground level lighting that provides ample light for pedestrians and people along Gulf Boulevard without adversely affecting the wildlife.
All right, we're gonna take one more. So from one of my tables who didn't get to talk, I saw a hand back here, headed your way. All right.
Thank you. Just following up on the traffic safety on Gulf Boulevard. You have, I think the yellow lights are just too dim. You have a few traffic lights, street sign lights that are white that are in Gulf Boulevard. They're much brighter. And you have cities just up the beach here that have white street lights. I don't think we have to have these yellow lights. We also need to have a street light by every pedestrian crosswalk. It's dark in some of those crosswalks there because there's no street light on either side where the pedestrians have to cross. So my suggestion is that they put a street light wherever there's a pedestrian crosswalk there. And I don't know if anyone else had something else here.
Thank you very much. All right, so I think just in the interest of time, we're going to keep it moving, but at the end, we'll have a chance to kind of, debrief everything all together. So let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, and as a reminder, if you didn't get a chance to raise your concern or your opportunity, feel free to leave it on the comment card. We'll be reading through all of those.
All right, so our goal statement for new development and redevelopment is support sustainable growth that balances community identity with economic vitality by directing growth towards the city's activity centers while maintaining neighborhood character. And some of the key recommendations we've heard from previous workshops and events have been controlled growth. Make sure that growth is directed to areas that can support new development and ensure that infrastructure is coming online to support any new development that happens. Encouraging quality design and a cohesive look and feel that invokes the character that you all have here today. Maintaining views of the beach and the character of Johns Pass Village. Having some mixed use development where you'd have shops on the ground floor, potentially some residential units above. And also look at some standards that would make sure that you could have smaller spaces for local businesses because smaller retail spaces are more affordable, especially for local business owners. And then when new development does come online, make sure that it provides some community benefits. And you'll see there a list of some of the community benefits we've heard people want to see with new development. I know new development can be a bit of a, it's good if it's good, right? And so what are some of the things that you would want to see a newer development provide that would make you okay with some new development coming? And I'm not talking about, just to be clear, we're not talking about some crazy tall condo towers or anything like that. Height limits are 6 stories. It's going to stay that way. In certain areas, it's even lower in other areas. But as you all know, there will be some new development coming, especially as certain areas, experience damage from the storm. So what are some things you'd like to see the development provide that provides a public benefit, such as public art, some of those mobility improvements you talked about, recreational facilities, pedestrian friendly types of design. So I'll stop talking and hand it back over to you all to talk at your table, and then we'll do the same format as last time and hopefully hear from some new folks.
Speechless. What are our thoughts on this one? I don't know. All right, we'll give it another 30 seconds for you all to wrap up and then we'll report back again. I'm hearing some really good conversation, so excited to hear the whole group. All right, who wants the red box first? What table? Any volunteers? Otherwise Nicole's gonna give it to one table.
I don't think I heard anything from this table before. Does anyone have anything here that they'd like to share on new development, redevelopment, things that you'd like to see as the city rebuilds? All right, great, thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things we talked about were the infrastructure being important because as it is now, before big buildings come in, we don't have infrastructure during spring break times, during certain times of the year, winter. If we don't have police coverage, if we don't have bathrooms at the public, you know, I know there's bathrooms at the public beach accesses, but maybe not enough to handle an influx of large amounts. The other thing was, a worry our table has is with the hurricane and with all of the houses that are gonna be flattened and lots sold, maintaining not just the character of John's Pass, but maintaining the character of neighborhoods and where, I mean, on our street on the lane, there's like 3 or 4 houses in a row that are gonna be going up as lots, and now all of a sudden, somebody could buy that and put up a giant mega structure. So we want to make sure that areas are zoned, preserved, something, you know, if Boca Ciega, all those little one-story ranches, you know, are they going to get bought out and suddenly we're going to have large, I don't know, we just like that to be taken into consideration in the long-term planning. So anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to say about, so I'm not sure we talked about this specifically, but about, as we are doing the redevelopment, especially John's Pass Village, you know, we talk about character of John's Pass Village. So who's going to determine that?
Great question.
It's very subjective. But I think that one of the things that's been a success of John's Pass Village in the past is that it's very independent. There are so many independent businesses, and that is what makes it unique. And I would really like to see that continue, although, you know, it's going to be harder for them to pay the rent than it is for like Hooters. But Hooters, you know, you can go anywhere for Hooters, but where can you go for, you know, some funky little, you know, fresh fish restaurant, which we could do there, and that would really give us a real unique character. And
Excellent, thank you. All right, who's next?
Nicole, there's a gentleman
Oh.
behind you.
Perfect.
Okay, so as you enter Madeira Beach and you come down the causeway, I think many of the residents feel that the commercial interests are favored hugely over the residential interests in this town. And I drive down there and now we used to have some low-level buildings. Now we have the high building that feels like you're driving next to a wall. And I'm sorry, I spent more on landscaping my pool than they spent on those multi-million-dollar condos. So I think the city needs to require heavy-duty landscaping. That's our entrance, that's our front door. And you look at what they did there, they stuck in a couple stupid little trees, and they said, okay, that's fine. When you made so many concessions to the developer on how he built the buildings and what he did there. So I would like to see you put huge requirements for landscaping in any new development so that our town looks like we would want the town to look rather than New York City or Sand Key.
All right. Yes. I can tell that Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Beautification and Placemaking will also have quite a few comments. But I like that you're touching on like community benefits, that if new development is going to come into the city, what should we be asking for in return? So I'd love to hear some other thoughts that other tables have had on things that they'd like to see newer developments provide. You are.
We had some discussion with, there used to be a lot of duplexes down along 140th and some of those side streets there. And what happens with those? We suspect that a lot of the owners are just going to sell their property. Are we going to start having apartment buildings in there? It kind of gets away from the character of the neighborhood. So doing some planned development where you maintain that neighborhood character rather than, because obviously they're going to have to be built up if it's residential. And I don't know how you're going to have that same neighborhood feel as buildings are elevated there, and if there's going to be more density because of possible apartments that could be put in there.
All right, I think we'll take one more on this one, maybe from somewhere in the front of the room. Well, Commissioner raised his hand. There you are.
I'm sorry, am I not supposed to? Oh, okay.
Of course.
Well, an idea I have is density / intensity incentives.
Yep.
So if currently, for instance, we allow, let's say, 15 units an acre for a project, maybe we can reduce it to, let's say, 10 units an acre. And if they would like to bring it up to 15 units an acre, then they have to give back to the city a whole lot, like, building undulations, extra landscaping, some extra work that would make it worthwhile for the developer to achieve that 15 units an acre. So density, intensity, basically bonus based on incentives.
With community benefits, with
Yes.
things that the community wants to see.
Yes, and in that case, then they would be willing to spend more money on their building and landscaping in order to get the extra density that we just right now may be giving it to them.
Right. All right, so I'll still take one more, maybe from the front of the room. I'd love to kind of stick with the theme here on community benefits, things you want to see new development provide. Here, all right, there you go.
Our table talked about several things that's already been touched on. We talked about the character in John's Pass, we talked about character in the neighborhoods, but we also, the other side of the coin with the redevelopment of these neighborhoods is we want to keep an eye on the short-term rental issue. And that's a big issue for our community. We already have regulations in place, but a lot of times they're not being enforced. We would like to see enforcement, and we would like to also see perhaps a more easy way to facilitate residents, maybe not self-reporting, but like neighborhoods reporting, like, hey, we're seeing this issue, like, how can we make this easier? Because a lot of us are aware of these properties and nothing seems to be happening. We have another one, or is that it? Oh, we talked about the pedestrian zone. Like, how we have the Wednesday morning market, and there's like a zone pedestrian area over on 150th. It would be nice if in the future something was considered where we had more of a permanent pedestrian zone in that area, where a portion of the road could be dedicated for just, community activities and socializing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the table I was at also touched on the short-term rental issue and more enforcement, and also kind of goes back to the education of just how you can report it. I know other cities do something kind of like a see, click, fix type of system where you can just go online and report it just like any other code violation. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I feel like this kind of segues pretty good into this next goal statement. I know the table I was at for a little bit kind of touched on this, so I think there's a lot of overlap here. You want me to read it, Nicole? All right, so this goal statement for economic and business development is to foster a thriving local economy that supports small business development and encourages a diversity of entrepreneurial activities that meet the daily needs of year-round residents while also providing memorable experiences for visitors. I think you just wanted me to read entrepreneurial in front of everyone. See if I could do it. All right, so some key recommendations that we've heard through the community engagement process so far is to keep things local, to support local businesses, and also provide ways for new local businesses and entrepreneurs to emerge in Madeira Beach. And also keeping, those who grow up here, encouraging them to open their own business here and staying here throughout their entire lives. Also, working waterfronts is a big topic of discussion in Madeira Beach as well. So we've heard numerous conversations about that. And also, you all have a lot of great events here. So continuing with the family-friendly events that not only support the existing community, but also draws visitors into the city as well, generating more activity and revenue for the businesses. And also, opportunities to attract target industries for more specific job growth that meets, the city's needs and the character of the city as well. So with that, we'll open it to the table discussion. All right, I'll give you 30 more seconds. We will need to pick up the speed a little bit for our remaining 3 categories, but 30 seconds and we'll share as a group. All right, I hate to break up any discussion, but does anyone have something they want to share to start with? Is there any table? All right. I'm gonna nominate the back table over there. I feel like we haven't heard from you all tonight, so I'm gonna pass this over there.
Over there.
All right, who wants to talk? The guy who shows up.
Yeah. The guy who shows up late gets the microphone. It's the rule at this table here. This is one of the things we're talking about.
We had someone sharing out, and then we'll get to some other tables in just a second. Go ahead.
All right, our table, what we were discussing is really, we kind of zeroed in on the family-friendly events and the concerts and the festivals and all. Because, and we used a lot of John's Pass as step one, because we all go there and there's tons of families, but there's not a lot of stickiness for families to stay, right? There's stuff to walk around, but there's nothing really there for the kids. Would there be a place that you can get smaller little attractions or, you know, little things, little merry-go-round or something like that that makes people go? Because the kids stay, they want to come, the parents stay, the parents spend more money, they pay for longer parking, and we all know parking is a huge revenue driver for the city. So if you build it, they will come and keep tax revenue coming in for the city is one that we're talking about. And where's the next question? We don't know the answer to that one, but it's a thought. And then so the other thing when we're talking about was this beautiful piece of property we're on here and the rec center, opportunities to really do some more cool things here. And there's room, beautiful softball field, Rock Park's great. Playground, we could do better, right? Splash pad, you could probably do a little bit better. You've got parking that we get revenue from right in there again. if you talk about revenue drivers. And so that's kind of what we were talking about. Do you get a pool? Do you do something more attractive to get more people to come and spend time / money, right? If you look at the city as a business. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You definitely touched on one that I've heard quite a bit at some of the markets is leveraging the amazing city-owned properties that you have here to try to generate revenue. We've heard ideas about maybe an amphitheater, a pool is a great idea, and definitely I've heard quite a bit on kid-friendly types of activities to draw families to the area because the parents will stay and spend money. So all great points. I'm going to pass it over to this table because I just heard some really great ideas. So hopefully you all had some time to figure out who's going to speak. All right, thank you.
Well, I brought up the idea of some of the things that have to be passed along right now immediately are some of the projects that have already been passed. One, in terms of, you mentioned 6-story buildings. Well, there's already an approved 8-story hotel in the Triangle. There's the Level Rocks, which is a 3 condo and 1 hotel project that has been passed. There is the Schooner Hotel, which has been passed, and that's where the Schooner used to be. These are projects that have been passed. So whether you see them or not, they're already being done. Also, the parking garage. There has been talk about this going on and going into downtown, well, down by John's Pass. So if anybody's really interested, there's meetings that are going on here all the time. The commission has their meeting every month, and the planning committee have meetings every month. And if you guys really want to know about Madera Beach, go to those meetings. You can find out much information. And I can't remember what the other ones were.
We talked about exactly what he was saying, but the need for publicity other than attending the meetings, such as through social media. Or we learned about this meeting through the postcards they sent. So more postcards or emails from the city council, and not city listserv, but just getting that information out because I had no idea. And then we also briefly talked about maybe in Madeira Way, making as they're redeveloping it, something like the St. Pete Pier, you know, how they have all those little thingies and those little craft booths in the middle of it, making it a permanent pedestrian way with permanent little business craft booths in the middle of it. There you go, sorry.
Thank you. No, that was great. I'm going to give you all the same challenge I gave this table. We kind of honed in on like marketing and promotion and how you like to receive information, not just about what's going on at the city, but even with local businesses and events. So if everyone could write, if you don't write anything else down on your paper, next to this objective, economic and business development, write down the best way for you to receive information. Is that through email? Is that through getting the mailer to your house? Is it social media? Maybe it's a combination. This is something that we hear throughout all of these objectives is more education, more information. So please write that down on your paper, and then we'll take one more on this and move on to the next because we have some really important topics coming up. So do we have anything else that we want to share on economic development? Yes. The red one.
Yes, many of the topics have already been covered tonight. Everyone, they're all great ideas. I love it when we have community meetings like this and we can all brainstorm. I think it's a great idea. We should have more of these. Our table, we were talking tonight about the marina and plenty of space there to help hold more activities, make it more approachable, and use the marina as like have a little restaurant in there where people can take their boat, tie up, go to the restaurant, get some gas, grab some ice, and increase the traffic there at the marina. I think it's a great idea. And this table did too. I'm sure you guys have talked about it before. but, increasing activity at the marina and make it more approachable is what we talked about.
Thank you.
Very much.
You wanna take this?
Sure. Okay, I know that this one is going to be a really big topic, so I want to make sure that we give it its time for us to have good discussion at the tables as well as for the whole group. So as Hannah mentioned, we started the master plan before the storms, and sustainability and resiliency is just, it was one of 6 topic areas. And I think in light of recent events, we know that this is a really big one and a huge priority as we think about how the city rebuilds. And as the tagline for the master plan says, how can we guide the city towards a more resilient future? So our goal in this topic area is to promote stewardship of coastal resources and invest in adaptive infrastructure to mitigate flood risk and support long-term community resilience. And you'll see here that the text gets smaller because there's lots of key recommendations on this one. But again, that theme of increasing awareness and education on evolving flood protection systems, elevating public infrastructure, as well as exploring options for elevating residential structures and potential allowances for fill material. Continuing to improve your existing stormwater management systems by hardening and raising that infrastructure. But also looking at some green infrastructure solutions like living shorelines, green roofs, and bioswales. And then, also we talked a little bit about zoning and potential updates to that, looking at reducing the amount of impervious surface that can go on a site, which would help with stormwater runoff. And then, of course, continuing to educate and improve the city systems for disseminating information, and how, we go about rebuilding after catastrophic storm events. So I know there's a lot to unpack here. We'll have a few minutes at the tables and then we'll share out. Yeah, this one's probably. I'm trying to jump around. Oh,
All right, I'm going to give a 30-second warning. I know we could probably talk about this all night, but we want to give everyone a chance to share out and then get to our remaining 2 categories as well tonight. All right, let's come back as a group. And if there's a table that wants to start sharing, if you want to raise your hand and I'll bring you the red box. All right, I know the table I was at had some really good ideas, so I'm going to bring the box over to them. All right, I'm giving you guys the box if you want to share your, you comfortable sharing or?
The thing that we were talking about was on sustainability, and it kind of piggybacks onto the back part with beautification. Has to do with our undergrounding of our power lines on Gulf Boulevard and Gulf Lane. You have a lot of new structures that are going to come into the city, and I think the code requires any new structures now to have underground lines going to the power poles. So if we're doing that, why aren't we doing with the main feeder lines? You know, we haven't had good cooperation with Duke Energy with getting this project moving, which has been over 2 years now. So someone from the city needs to write a letter to the Public Service Commission to go ahead and try and jumpstart this, because they need to have some political pressure put on them to go ahead and make this happen, in my opinion. A lot of this has already got money been set aside for it, yes.
It just kind of stopped.
We've got the underground plastic pipe there, but they haven't put the power lines in.
All right, is there another table that would like to share? All right, everyone got shy at this category. I'm surprised. All right.
So our table was talking a lot about the after effects of the hurricane, and then there's lists for what you should do and take with you prior to the hurricane and everything else. We think there should be a city-sponsored resident handbook, kind of out there in the lobby that people can have or whatever. What to do after a hurricane with phone numbers, with what you're allowed to. I mean, it was 2 weeks before we were told we couldn't bag garbage. And so, you know, people who came in right away had their garbage bagged, and then nobody's willing to take the garbage because it's bagged. And now it's been sitting there for 2 weeks and it's disgusting, and you have to unbag it or figure out what to do with it. So things with rules, what to do, who to call, what's the process, what you're allowed to cut out if you have water damage, what pictures you should be taking. Because again, those came out well after the fact and people had already started throwing away things. The other thing that was brought up was the notification systems. And I know it doesn't necessarily have to do with, but because it's awareness, education and all that, there are a lot of people who aren't online. And then when the power goes out, because Daniel was saying a lot of the neighbors he was talking to are older. There needs to be a way to get this information to people who are not technically, who are technically challenged, who aren't technically aware. So, and my personal thing is signage, the dunes. We paid to rebuild our own dunes, the residents. And literally the second day, we had people on boogie boards using them as sled, you know, like sledding hills. It's bad enough we had to pay to do our own dunes, but we need signage, we need awareness for tourists. The dunes need to be. We did that well, Bob and I paid to do our own. We did it at our house, but I mean, literally, somebody was with a boogie board, she was filming her kids boogie boarding. So we need like awareness, because it says awareness and education, but not just for residents, but for the tourists. Stay off the dune signs, stay, the importance of, so. Just some small
Yeah,
thoughts.
yeah, good thoughts. Okay, yeah.
At least a couple to share. One of them was, like just recycling in a recycling center. And then we talked about that, maybe there was one here like 10 years ago, but, I think there needs to be something local. I noticed that a lot of the restaurants, especially the pubs, they have thousands of bottles in a Saturday night. They just all go in the trash. There's got to be a better way. Another one is just, the red tide in our ocean and, the spillage that happens and, what's in place to prevent those and what's in place to, penalize those that, aren't following those rules. I know some of it's just the global warming and but I thought the red tide specifically had to do with like nitrate spills or other sewage spills and things like that. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add? No? Okay.
All right, I think we'll take one more on this topic. Is there anything we missed that you all want to share tonight? Right? Let me see, okay.
All right, our table. We're thinking, you gotta think, what we were thinking was thinking differently, right? A lot of these things are just gonna help a little bit, Band-Aids, but if you're gonna actually take on the problem, you gotta stay away from it and think bigger about what needs to happen. If money wasn't an issue, right, first, what needs to happen? And the only thing that could ever possibly help us not get flooded is higher seawalls to keep the water from coming onto our properties, right? And I was working on a project, was fortunate enough to go over to the Netherlands in Amsterdam and watch what they do and tour with some engineers out there. And they're actually, if you think like a John's Pass type thing, so they raised their seawalls up around the whole city, right? And then on their passes, they actually had movable arms gates that would close off their passes. That would be the same height as the seawalls on their beaches and their canal systems, right? So then you actually create an impenetrable barrier that the water simply can't get through, right? That's the only way you're ever gonna stop it, right? You're never gonna stop a 15-foot event, or you would, but you have to have nobody would have a view anymore. But somewhere in that moderation of a 3 or 4 foot type of a wall that would have to go around the entire place, that would create true coastal resiliency, is the only way you're ever gonna stop that, right? Now, who writes that check, I don't know, right? But that's the only way to do it. All this other stuff is just like, what are you gonna do? Like, should we be raising the roads that flood out to Crystal Drive on a high king tide? Yes, right? Oh, but it costs 10 million bucks? Yeah, but how much damage would this cause in the last 4 months on one street, right? And then multiply that by a whole island. It's not expensive in the grand scheme. We gotta think bigger and figure out where the funding comes to do stuff like that. And from the places that are low-lying areas, figure out a system that makes the drainage valves work better, right? And all that stuff, there's ways.
That proactive, we wouldn't have things that we have, right?
Right, we wouldn't have to fix up. It depends on, but you gotta figure out where the cash comes from, right? Yeah, a chicken and egg thing. But anyway, that's what we were thinking. That's the cure, right? How do you get there is a different question. All the other stuff, because if you raise your house up and your neighbor doesn't raise their house up, they're screwed. You raise your seawall and your neighbor doesn't help anybody. So unless there's a holistic, big approach to this, you're never gonna have it get fixed, right?
Thank you. All right.
In the interest of time.
Yes. So I know we advertised this would be occurring until 7 o'clock. We are running a little bit over. We're not too far from being done. So in the interest of time, we're going to combine the last two categories, which we've touched on them already tonight a little bit. And I think they do play off of each other pretty well. So it's the parks and recreation and public spaces, and then beautification and placemaking as well. So the goal statement for the Parks, Recreation, and Public Space theme is to optimize the use and accessibility of existing public spaces and reduce recreational and recreational amenities to better serve the needs of current and future residents and visitors. And some of the key recommendations and themes we've heard through this process is to develop a Parks and Recreation master plan to better utilize existing park spaces, look for opportunities for new park spaces, and maintain the ones we already have. Of course, maintaining the beaches and better access to the beaches, as well as other parks and open space. Implementing more kid-friendly structures within parks, public spaces, and open spaces as well. We've already heard it tonight, comments about Rock Park and the programming in Rock Park, education for beachgoers as well. So those, I think we've already touched on, which is really great. As you can see, a lot of these themes overlap. And then I'll read the beautification and placemaking goal statement as well. Encourage creative planning, design, and programming of public and private spaces to increase cultural and social vibrancy and reinforce Madeira Beach's identity as a small fishing village that has evolved into a must-visit coastal destination. And some of the key recommendations and themes we've heard is to improve the gateway entrances into the city, so you really know that you are entering Madeira Beach and it reflects the aesthetic, vibe, and character of the city as well. Additional wayfinding signage to key destinations, parking, park spaces, and other amenities. Placemaking features and public art in public spaces and within city streets and private development as well. And also the landscaping comment, we've heard that several times tonight. Also, not only landscaping that is beautiful, but also resistant to storm events and flooding events as well. And with that, I'll open the discussion for parks and beautification at the tables, and then we'll report back in about 5 minutes. So if you want to combine the two, I'll flip through the recommendations between a half point so you guys can see it on the screen, but it's all on your comment card as well.
Everyone, it's great to hear so much exciting discussion on these two. I know we've already kept you over time, so I think maybe we want to hear just maybe one big idea per table. Just one, your favorite idea that you heard, and then we're gonna wrap it up. We do have one last little thing that we're gonna ask of you before you turn these in at the back. Please fill out at the very least this top part on your very back page and rank the topic areas in order of priority to you. So it's just as easy as writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is really, really important for us as we move forward. So as people are talking and sharing their final ideas on those last two topic areas, I do ask that you please fill out at least this top part for prioritizing these topic areas. So with that, I'm gonna choose one table who has a big idea that they'd like to share on parks, recreation, and beautification. Who would like to start?
One of those.
All right, we might be running out of a little steam
Yeah.
here. But I can share
Yeah.
something that I heard at the table I was at. A art center for the community members was a really good idea that I heard. So that way, people can come do art, but also people can purchase art that is made. Visitors can come and purchase art. So I thought that was a really unique idea. Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, did you have something you wanted
Well,
to
we
say?
were wondering what's going on with the snack shack. Like, could that become a brand new, I know it has to be nonprofit, a whole arts park, beautification, beachy area. You go to other areas, like even Clearwater was mentioned, but you walk around, it is pretty there. There's a lot of trees and I don't know what's going on with.
I think they're just waiting for the best.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so the snack shack, okay. All right, who wants to share? There you go.
Alright, we had several ideas at our table. One of them was more picnic style benches around the city for, people, locals and tourists alike to be able to sit down, eat a picnic lunch. We've talked about it maybe like at the marina specifically, maybe with some shade structure, like not necessarily a full structure, but just a sunshade, something like that over top of them. More of that in the city would be really nice. We talked about playgrounds and more kid-friendly places, not just here at Rock Park, but perhaps in the pocket parks within the neighborhood and maybe even at John's Path. We also touched on perhaps even individual neighborhood style signs as well as like the main Welcome to Madeira Beach sign. But even each individual neighborhood, we have several in Madeira Beach that have their own personality, their own kind of community within a community. And it would be fun to have maybe like a welcome to, instead of saying the 140th neighborhood, whatever it's called, welcome to. Be kind of nice. What else did we talk about? Bike racks, for the love of all things, please, more bike racks. Oh, and we talked about, while land right now, there's a lot of houses being torn down, and we've seen property values fall. Perhaps the city could take advantage and purchase maybe a lot or two in these neighborhoods at the price point they are at right now to perhaps make some additional green space, because we know that beach property is not going to get any cheaper, and it would be nice to kind of reclaim some of that for Madeira Beach, its residents.
All right, does anyone else have something they want to share? Any big ideas? All right. You want me to throw it? All right.
I was kidding. So during the hurricanes, there was this art signage that said Madeira Beach strong, right? And I noticed a lot of people were taking pictures and distributing it. It just somehow got the word Madeira Beach out there. And I brought this up before at one of the meetings. I think it may not be a bad idea to create a big signage, maybe in 2 locations by the City Hall and maybe John's Pass, that says maybe love Madeira Beach. And we've seen signage like this, like in downtown St. Pete, where people go and stand, take pictures. So if we did that, I think we may get a lot of recognition across, the social media. Just a couple of things that just describes Madeira Beach, and love, I think, would probably go a long ways. So. Yes. There we go. Yes.
A suggestion was made that some of the pocket parks that are on the bay side, you might consider putting a dock there and make it fishing for the people that would want to come over that don't have access to water, that might want to go over to a dock there and fish in the intercoastal as a possibility.
All right, last call for any ideas. Otherwise, we'll move to wrap it up tonight and get y'all out of here. All right, so yeah, it's Nicole mentioned, please fill out your comment card and ranking your priorities for these different key themes that we talked about tonight. This will really help us as we go to move into the implementation portion of the plan, in the phasing and determining, what should we tackle first. Obviously, we would love to tackle everything, but as was mentioned tonight, we don't have all the money in the world or the time in the world, so we're gonna have to start somewhere. And I know Mayor would like to say a few words tonight as well before we head out, so we'll turn the floor over to Mayor Brooks.
I just wanted to say thank you all for coming tonight. This is probably the best crowd I've seen in a really, 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 really long time. And community input is so important. So thank you for taking the time out of your evening to come and sit here and be so involved and engaged. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll echo that. We work in a lot of communities in Tampa Bay, and I must say, I'm not just saying this to you all tonight, but you all are really engaged. We really appreciate your time. It's very rare that we see community members who are willing to come spend their evening with us, be engaged, and give really good feedback. And we spend a lot of time, looking at your comments and preparing for these meetings. And we're always really excited to come here because we know you all are excited to be here, share your feedback, good or bad. So it really helps us do our job better. So really want to thank you all.
Yes, thank you all so much. You should give yourselves a round of applause really quick.
Yeah, so that's it tonight, but our next steps with this plan, we'll be coming out with a second survey, which will try to get that information to all of you in the best way you've identified in your comment card. So email, if you left your email at the sign-in sheet tonight, you'll get it that way. Otherwise, the project website is the best place for information. And we'll be coming back to you in a few months with our final community workshop, and we'll be out at some pop-up events. So thank you all tonight.
Notebooks